Here's a fun fact. Nigeria's economy is still benefiting from a dead man's bank accounts. And no, it's not because he was a generous philanthropist or a misunderstood economic genius. It's because he was a kleptocrat of historic proportions. His name? General Sani Abacha. A man whose corruption was so massive, he continues to refund Nigeria from beyond the grave. But wait, according to his wife, the man didn't steal a single dime. In fact, 27 years after Abacha's dead, she claimed her husband actually helped Nigeria to save money. So who's lying? And how did a military dictator who died over 2 decades ago become one of the largest sources of foreign inflows to Nigeria today?
June 8 marks 27 years since the death of General Sani Abacha.
Former Nigerian military ruler General Sani Abacha.
In all, it's estimated $5 billion was embezzled under Abacha's rule.
Where would he have stolen the money from?
Well, that's what previous administrations told Nigerians.
This is the story of Sani Abacha, his rise, his terror, his loot, and how his legacy of theft still fuels the Nigerian economy. Welcome to the world of money, power, corruption, and global conspiracy.
The truth always comes out. Unfortunately, it comes out in time.
To understand Sani Abacha, you have to understand Nigeria in the early 90s, a country rich in oil, brimming with potential, but plagued by political instability and military coups. Nigeria was and still is a paradox. Wealthy in resources, poor in governance. Sani Abacha was born in 1943 in Kano, northern Nigeria. He rose quickly through the military ranks thanks to a combination of cunning, loyalty, and a willingness to do whatever it took. He was the kind of guy who smiled while pulling the trigger. In 1983, he played a key role in the military coup that overthrew Nigeria's civilian government. By 1993, he launched another coup, this time taking power for himself. He never ran for office. He never faced a ballot box. He ruled by decree, absolute power, no questions asked, and with absolute power came absolute terror. Under Abacha's rule, Nigeria was a dictatorship in every sense. Dissent was crushed, journalists disappeared, activists were tortured, and his most famous victim, Ken Saro-Wiwa, a Nigerian environmentalist and writer who was executed alongside 8 others after a sham trial. The world watched in horror. The Commonwealth suspended Nigeria. Sanctions were imposed, but Abacha didn't flinch. He was untouchable. But while the world was focused on his human rights abuses, Abacha was quietly executing another crime on a far grander scale. He was looting the country blind. Abacha ran Nigeria like a mafia boss. He had a small inner circle, family members, trusted officials, and loyal bankers. Together, they created a system to siphon billions of dollars out of the Nigerian treasury. Here's how it worked. Step 1, invent a security threat. Step 2, approve emergency funds to handle it. Step 3, withdraw the cash. Step 4, disappear the money into offshore accounts in Switzerland, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, and the UK. One of the most damning cases was when Abacha ordered the Central Bank of Nigeria to release hundreds of millions of dollars to his aides under the guise of security allocations. These funds were then converted to dollars and smuggled out of the country, sometimes in literal briefcases. Over the course of 5 years, Abacha looted an estimated $5 billion to $10 billion. That's not a typo. Even Swiss authorities, who aren't exactly known for transparency, were stunned. But the money trail didn't stop at Swiss vaults. Abacha's loot found its way into American real estate, luxury cars in Europe, and anonymous shell companies across the globe. He diversified his portfolio, like any good investor. Then in 1998, karma, or something like it, struck. Abacha died suddenly in the presidential villa in Abuja. The official cause? A heart attack. The unofficial rumor? Poisoned by imported happiness mercenaries. Because, of course, his death marked the end of a brutal regime, but also the beginning of an international manhunt for his money. Nigeria's new leaders, under pressure to clean up the country's image, began tracking down the stolen billions. And what followed was one of the largest asset recovery efforts in modern history. In 2002, Nigeria recovered $1 billion from Swiss banks. In 2005, another $500 million. Then came Luxembourg, Jersey, Liechtenstein in the US. Altogether, Nigeria has recovered over $3.6 billion of the Abacha loot, and counting. The money keeps coming. In 2020, the US and the UK returned another $311 million to Nigeria with the requirement that it be used for infrastructure. Roads, bridges, public works, the kind of things the original money should have funded. Ironically, Abacha may have stolen so much that his loot recovery programs are now a stable revenue stream for the Nigerian government. Talk about dividends from the grave. But just when you thought this story couldn't get more absurd, enter Mariam Abacha. In 2025, over 2 decades after her husband's death, Mrs. Abacha made headlines once again by insisting that her husband never stole money. According to her, the narrative is all wrong. Abacha didn't loot. He saved money for Nigeria. That's right, all those offshore accounts, apparently just really creative savings plans. To quote her, he did not steal Nigeria's money. Instead, he saved it. And honestly, you can't make this stuff up. Her comments sparked a wave of outrage, mockery, and memes across Nigeria. But behind the absurdity lies a deeper truth. Corruption thrives not just on stolen money, but on rewritten history. By framing Abacha as a misunderstood savior, Mrs. Abacha is attempting to rewrite the legacy of one of Africa's most corrupt leaders. And if enough people believe her, it might just work. But the receipts don't lie. Over 20 countries have returned funds looted by Abacha. The accounts were real, the paper trail was real, the deals were real, and the suffering of millions of Nigerians while their leader stashed billions overseas, also very real. Abacha didn't just steal money, he stole futures by gutting public services, strangling infrastructure, and killing hope. All while sitting on a pile of cash large enough to fund entire state budgets. And while his family may enjoy his ill-gotten wealth, his people continue to suffer the consequences. But here's the kicker. Abacha might be dead, but his playbook is alive and well. Nigeria and many other countries still struggle with the same patterns of elite theft, offshore laundering, and shameless propaganda. The faces change, the methods evolve, but the system remains. So the next time someone tells you that a brutal dictator saved money, ask them where that money was saved. Because if it's in Swiss bank accounts, luxury condos, and anonymous shell companies, you're not looking at a savior. You're looking at a thief, a very rich, very dead thief, who's still paying Nigeria to this day. This is the ugly truth behind Sani Abacha, and that's the cost of unchecked power. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with Mrs. Abacha that her husband was a savior and should probably be proclaimed a saint? Keep your eyes wide open. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful documentaries.